أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Welcome everyone. I'm honestly so thrilled and truly humbled to guide you through this explainer today. We're going to explore the profound closing verses of Surah al-Taghābun, specifically verses 14 through 18. And what is so incredibly remarkable about this text is how it perfectly mirrors both ancient spiritual wisdom and modern neuroscience. It takes us from the grand, sweeping decrees of the cosmos right down into the quiet daily practice of tawakkul, that deep, unwavering trust, right inside our own homes.
So let me ask you, who is your absolute deepest test? It's kind of a piercing question, isn't it? The Quran actually zooms all the way in from the grand scope of the heavens straight into the intimate reality of our living rooms. The faces we see across our pillows, the small hands reaching for ours. As much as we cherish them, these beloveds can also be our most profound spiritual trials.
All right, let's just dive right in. We have a beautiful roadmap for this explainer today. We'll start by exploring the paradox of the home, move into the inner spiritual test, and then look at the actual neuroscience of forgiveness. After that, we'll talk about the beautiful divine loan, uncover some fascinating mysteries of the numbers, and wrap up with some quiet reflections for the heart. We're basically going to bridge classical theology, the beautiful path of Sufism, and modern behavioral economics.
Starting with the paradox of the home and our greatest loves. We're introducing a rather startling Quranic concept here, the idea that our greatest loves, our spouses and our children, can actually be our deepest tests. Now you might be wondering, why on earth is the family considered a test? Let's break down exactly what that means. The text describes wealth and children as fitna. Now wait, this is absolutely not a rejection of family, not at all. Fitna literally translates to a refining flame. Think of it like a clinical x-ray of our attachments. It's meant to show us how our love can actually deform our character if we leave it unexamined. It's a profound call for tazkiyah, the continuous purification of our hearts. To really get this, we need to look at both the outer, the dhahir meaning, and the inner, batinit meaning. Historically speaking, the outer meaning referred to families who actually held early believers back from emigrating to Medina because of their fear and their love. But what about the inner meaning? Well, the Sufi interpretation tells us it's really about the subtle idolatry of family love, where we accidentally mistake the beautiful gift for the ultimate giver. The great scholar al-Qashayri really hit the nail on the head here. He noted that our closest tests are the most disguised. Our love literally does the work of camouflage. And what's wild is that modern attachment theory completely validates this ancient warning. It warns us against enmeshment, which is when a beloved becomes so central to who we are that we lose our own spiritual boundaries, our own adab, our proper manners with God. Which brings us to the inner spiritual test, and a very specific disease of the soul. Having established that our closest attachments are a trial, we have to look at what makes passing this test so incredibly difficult. The Quran uses this term, shuhan nafs. Al-Ghazali views this as pretty much the master vice of the human ego. It isn't just being a little stingy. It is this active, hungry appetite to acquire and hold on to things. Interestingly enough, when we look at brain scans today, the brain's insula and amygdala fire in exactly this anxious, grasping way whenever we feel our possessions are at risk. And get this, look at this ratio, 2-to-1. Modern behavioral economists have proven that humans systematically overweight the value of what we already own by a factor of roughly 2-to-1. It's a phenomenon called loss aversion. So the Quran was providing a cognitive correction to our biological default 14 centuries ago. We literally need to be shielded by grace from our own biology. So how do we fix it? Let's look at the neuroscience of forgiveness. What is absolutely fascinating here is how the Quran offers a neurological cure for our grasping nature, specifically when we're wronged by the people closest to us in our own homes. I mean, just look at how this maps out. The Quran uses 3 escalating verbs for forgiveness. First, da'fu, to release the right to retaliate, which perfectly maps to the brain's executive inhibition center. Second, dasfahu, to cognitively reframe and turn the page. And finally, telfiru, to cover the offense with such ikhlas, such deep sincerity, that you actually pray for them. This utilizes the brain's empathy network. It is a precise 3-stage neurological architecture of complete forgiveness.
But how do we actually pull this off in real life? The classical commentator al-Qurtubi pointed out that verse 16 gives us 3 active steps: listen, obey, and spend. It shows us that a living faith isn't just an internal feeling, it requires active, physical participation. The ear receives, the will submits, and the hand must physically release.
And that act of releasing, that leads us right into the beautiful divine loan. This is where we see one of the most astonishing divine transactions ever articulated.
Rumi just captures this perfectly. The creator, the literal owner of everything, actually deigns to ask the believer for a loan, a qard hasan, a beautiful loan. Rumi uses the metaphor of water. Generosity is the soul's way of staying liquid. To give freely is to refuse to become a swamp. It's the ultimate cure for that grasping ego we talked about earlier. And the proof is right there in the data. In over 130 countries, modern research has unequivocally proven the Quranic claim that spending on others produces greater and more durable well-being than spending on yourself. The giver is always the primary beneficiary of the gift. Now, let's uncover some of the mysteries of the numbers. Let's look at the abjad numerological patterns that are woven so quietly into these 5 verses, revealing a really profound inner architecture. The math here literally confesses the reality of our faith. The words related to our earthly trials and the home resolve to the number 8. The words of our spiritual commission resolve to 7. The 4 cardinal directions of our tests and transactions resolve to 4. And finally, the word for beautiful resolves to 1. All our earthly trials collapse beautifully into the singularity of God. It's like a silent dhikr, a constant remembrance woven into the very letters of the text.
So, what does this all mean for us today? Let's move into some reflections for the heart. I'd love for you to just soften your heart for a moment, maybe lower your gaze if you can, and reflect with me on 4 practical but piercing questions for your own life. Sit in the quiet of your own house and ask yourself this: of the people you love most, whose disappointment makes you bend a principle you wouldn't bend for anyone else? Be honest with yourself. Identify who holds that secret throne in your heart, because that throne is meant only for the real. Second, look at the things you call mine. What possession, what promotion, what curated public self has become your secret substitute for God's great reward? What is the secret destination of all your striving right now? Third, remember that the Quran mercifully asks us to be mindful of God just to the extent of our current ability. Not the impossible mile, just the next inch. So what is your edge? What is that single act of taqwa, of deep God consciousness, maybe a small honesty or a small refusal that is just 1 inch beyond your habit today? And fourth, what calibrated act of letting go would constitute a true beautiful loan for you this week? I don't mean giving a leftover. I mean a gift whose absence you would truly feel, exchanging it for a multiplication you will not see until the day of gathering. Let's close this reflection with a deeply humble munajat, a whispered prayer. O holder of the hand I most love to hold, unbind me where I have made of them an altar. Teach my taqwa the inch it can carry, not the mile it cannot, and accept the small, trembling loan of this open hand. Ameen. I leave you with this final thought to ponder. Will the small loan of your life become the great wealth of your eternity? Are you ready to turn the fitna of your home into the ultimate act of worship? Compiled with gratitude by Mir Ali Shah, a seeker sharing through the Living the Wisdom of the Quran podcast. I humbly ask for your forgiveness and God's acceptance for any mispronunciations or errors, especially those of my AI voice. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me in this explainer today. May your hearts remain open and your streams forever flowing.